Thanks again for joining us, Olivia. Let's talk about these Georgia Bulldogs coming to town. They're a top 10 team. They're probably 3-2. I don't look at all the polls. Certainly a top 5 team, 28-2, 8-1 in SEC play. Only losses this season, UNC Wilmington and those Kentucky Wildcats in the SEC. Talk to us about this team, Olivia. If you haven't seen them play, what should college baseball fans and Texas baseball fans be expecting out of this Georgia team this weekend?
Definitely the offense. This is a team, it's going to come in, it's going to hit home runs. And I know that's an area that Texas is really good at and not surrendering the home runs. But Georgia currently leads the NCAA. I believe it's 79. But it's not just the home runs. They're going to score in a variety of different ways. They're going to take their walks, they're going to take their hit by pitches. It's actually something that they practice. In practice, the coaches throw rag balls at them and they just have to stand there. And if they move, they get ridiculed by their teammates in the dugout. So they're going to score in a lot of ways. They're not going to rely on that home run, but they do have the power. And this offense is really deep. It's not just sometimes last year it felt like just turn the lineup over until Charlie Condon and Corey Collins get to the plate. This year it's not like that at all. It's really 1 through 9. Any guy in that lineup can do damage on any given night.
Yeah, you mentioned the home run, 79, 56 doubles. So they're banging the ball around. They've got 8 guys over 1,000 in OPS. So it reminded me a lot looking at their stat line when we started talking about Mississippi State a couple of weeks ago, how dangerous that offense looked on paper. I think this Georgia offense probably a step up in reality than paper from that Mississippi State offense. So certainly a good offense. What should we be looking at from a pitching perspective, Olivia?
So the pitching has definitely been the struggle point for Georgia this season, and it's been the starters because the bullpen's been solid, not elite, but it's done enough to win the games. The starters just haven't gone long. They've lacked that longevity this season. They've only had 4 guys, and it was actually 2 guys, but 4 combined go longer than 5 innings, and that was Brian Curley twice and Leighton Finley twice. And it's giving up those big innings, especially early in the ball game. They had that, I believe it was a 4-game stretch where they put up zeros in the first inning, but where they've been hurt this season is letting those opposing teams get on the board early, definitely from a starting pitching wise.
Yeah, that was the one thing I noticed. Maybe against Auburn this weekend, the starters actually did a little bit better than they had in prior weeks, where the starters were able to give you a little depth and put up some zeros instead of that 4. I kept seeing every time I watch baseball, it's like 4, 5, and the 6 in the first. I'm like, what is going on with Georgia? And you start looking at their splits against their bullpen, and you're like, oh my gosh, it's completely inverse. I mean, from what you would expect. So.
Yeah, and the problem with that is it hasn't even been like the teams are hitting them hard. It's been those walks and those hit by pitches, and then you get the big home run, and then Georgia's in a deficit.
So I was looking at looking at the pitchers. You got 8 guys under 3 ERA. That's pretty solid. You got 12 guys under 4. I don't know what the gold standard of ERA is, but I think if you're around between 3 and 4 is probably pretty decent in college with these metal bats. So it looks like they've got a pretty good stable of guys that can keep other teams off the board. Radke's kind of the dude though, right? Isn't he like the guy Texas fans should go, oh shit, Radke's coming in. Like we got like something bad might happen. He kind of closes games. He's a long reliever type guy that can win games for you guys. 1.62 ERA. So and I think opponent's batting average against him is 169. So Radke seems to be the guy that is pretty dangerous on that staff. Is there anybody else similar to him or anybody else we should be looking for from a pitching perspective?
Yeah, so Radke, I would actually say he's one of the most underrated guys on this staff. And like you mentioned, he can kind of do everything. But I believe this was the first weekend that he actually closed for Georgia and tried to close him twice, did give up that home run in the top of the 10th to Auburn. But it was a good pitch, so just tip your hat to Auburn there. But he's done a heck of a job for Georgia this season, leads the team in ERA. But as far as some other guys that you should look at coming out of that bullpen, definitely an Alton Davis. He's a guy that's really struggled to start the season, but his last 2 outings have been really solid. Actually touched 99 the other day against Auburn, which I didn't know he could do. I knew his velocity was up there. Didn't know it was at 99. And then as far as a couple other guys, Jordan Stevens, I really think Georgia wants to try to use him in that closer role. he just walks way too many guys, and that's the problem with him. Same thing with Brian Zeldin, was Georgia's closer last season, hasn't really gotten off to a good start this year. But those are the ones that I'm definitely keeping my eye on. And then you have guys like your Eric Hammond, your Justin Bird, Davis Chastain's been an underrated one as well, and just a bunch of other guys that you can bring in from this bullpen.
My favorite's still Brian Curley, just because he's an absolute madman on the mound. I mean, he gives off that D3, just does not give a flip. I'm gonna go bananas at any moment. Just I love it. It's pure theater out there on the mound.
Was it the Georgia guy that did the little lick thing or something before he threw before he struck somebody out earlier? And which one is that?
That was Brian.
That's my dude.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And the thing that I love about him is when he's on the mound, it really feels like he has that mentality of, I'm going to throw my stuff and you can't hit it. Whereas some of the other pitchers, it feels like they think the other team can hit their stuff. So they're kind of dancing around the strike zone a little bit. Brian Curley does not care. He's going to attack the strike zone, and he is the most confident pitcher I've ever seen for Georgia.
Mark, if you'll remember this, but when you watch Curley, it reminds you of Chance Ruffin out of Lake Travis.
Oh yeah.
And those two might actually be best friends in real life if you ever put them together. It'd be really scary as shit. Like, you would be hangover vibes, but it would be really fun to watch.
Yeah, I got to see Curley over the weekend. I watched him pitch some in that Auburn game, and you could tell he had those vibes. I was like, oh yeah, I would like this guy if he was on the Texas side. So yeah, I'm excited to see him pitch in person.
Definitely one of those guys that you love if he's on your team, can't stand if he's not. But I don't know how much you guys have seen of him, but he actually dances on the mound too. He'll be sitting there bobbing his head. He'll be singing sometimes to like the little clapping noise playing in the background. So definitely a fun guy to watch.
Future Savannah Banana for sure.
Yeah, exactly. If Major League Baseball doesn't work out for him, he'll have a spot on that team for sure. We've talked about it before, Olivia, how baseball players, you just kind of have to be a little bit different to be a successful baseball player at this level. He might take it a little extra extreme of different, but that's cool. I like that. I like to see guys having fun. One of the things we really like about this Texas team is how much they have fun in the dugout, and just seems like they it almost seems like there's no place they'd rather be at any given point in time. When they show them in the dugout, that's like their heaven at that moment, and you like to see that. There's no point in being all bummed out in the dugout, and so anyway, we'll be looking for that guy acting crazy. What else? Like, tell us your thoughts on the series overall. Like, I mean, probably, I don't know, you may disagree. Probably Georgia's biggest test could be Texas's biggest test. We don't know. Like, LSU's obviously a good baseball team, but there's still a lot of baseball to be played. Not exactly sure how all this will shake out. Certainly, though, top 1 or 2 tests for both of these teams. What are you Georgia fans? What is Georgia? What are we expecting out of this from y'all's side, from y'all's perspective?
Absolutely. I definitely think, at least up to this point, this is going to be Georgia's biggest test of the season. And then the following week, Arkansas comes to Foley Field. So a heck of a 2-week stretch there for the Bulldogs. But I kind of alluded to it earlier. Words are hard. But Texas doesn't give up the long ball. So I'm curious if that happens to Georgia. Can they continue to score in these different ways? One area of concern against Auburn, Georgia struck out 37 times. A lot of that was credit to Carson Myers. He just came in, absolutely shut down. He retired 7 straight via the strikeout, and it was 9 of the last 11 batters he struck out. So a lot of that could be swayed due to his performance. But if Texas can limit Georgia offensively, home run wise, can they continue to take their walks, take their hit by pitches, especially on a hostile road? Gainesville was hostile a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be anything like Georgia's about to face.
Yeah, Sean, I saw Olivia tweet earlier. I was actually looking at the same type of stats this morning, but obviously you see Georgia with the ridiculous amount of home runs. It's like 79 or something like that. But I was surprised to see that Texas has only given up 13 on the season. So I was looking at those 2 exact stats this morning, and I'm like, man, something's got to give there.
Yep.
And Texas fans like to take pride in the fact that Disch Falk plays big, and a lot of times you have some powerful teams that come in. LSU is an example, right? I think they only hit, was it 1 home run that they hit, Zach, when they played?
Was it just
Austin?
1?
I think
I know Rodriguez.
Gurriel hit 1, and then
Gurriel went the other way, and then Hernandez hit 1 in game 1.
Yeah, Yeah. So I think that's going to be a real, kind of linchpin in the series there. It's like, can Texas keep them inside the park? And that could really make a huge difference from Texas's side if we're able to do that. So I think that's going to be huge.
And then can Georgia's starting pitching match it is really my biggest question. They've been inconsistent this season and going on that hostile environment. I'm expecting Charlie Goldstein, Brian Curley, Leighton Finley. Wouldn't be surprised if Colton Smith got thrown in there, but can they match what Texas is going to do? And that's really what I think this series is going to come down to.
For me, it's just, it's crazy that you went from Condon and I'm blanking on the other guy's name, begins with a C. Corey Collins. Mm-hmm. The two of the obviously golden spikes, and then a really amazing power hitter, and then you turn right around, you're like, oh, you can't reproduce that, and you got Zabrowski and Burnett out there just continuing to launch them. So it's especially Wes Johnson's a pitching guy first, but he's been able to just hit the transfer portal so well and bring in that kind of talent that it's really impressive what Wes Johnson's done in just the 2 years at Georgia.
Yeah, and he said he moneyballed it point blank. He said we're not going to have a guy come in and get those 37 home runs like Charlie did, those 30 like Corey did. So we're just going to get a bunch of guys that can hit, and they've done that so far.
Yeah, you guys have said it all, but it really will be interesting to see which pitching staffs can keep the other guys inside the yard, can limit. There's going to be hit by pitch. There's probably going to be walks. That happens almost every single college baseball game. What happens after that? I think that's the big key. And if you do give up the long ball, if you're Texas, can you do it and limit it to solo shots, things like that? Or are you giving up bombs with 2 and 3 guys on the bases? And that's not any like magical thing that we just made up. But I think, to your point, Olivia, that's going to be really important in this one, and you too as well, Mark. 79 home runs for Georgia, 13 given up for Texas. Whoever wins that is going to be in a really good position to win this series, just outside of some crazy fluke stuff.